going live right now on YouTube. So thank you guys for joining us. This is Double Axis Podcast number 30. We are doing a Super Bowl special. So Jerry is our guest this week, and Jerry, you'll have to lean in a little bit over
Yeah, I
here.
got you.
But so how was your week, buddy?
Soul crushing, as always. As always.
I'm
but
pretty
I
sure-
made it through. I
Pretty
made
sure
it through,
that's
so-
exactly the same thing you said last week too.
I mean, that's just the standard answer anymore. It really is. It
I
really
hate
is.
to hear that,
You
so.
know, people ask how you're doing, but they really don't care.
it's all just a
Oh,
sham.
thanks, Dave. I
So
appreciate that, Dave.
David has a lot going on with work, so he may have to step away. So if he does, just be aware of
Yeah.
that. So, but how was your week other than what
No,
you
not
got?
too bad.
Not too bad.
Yeah,
that's
still
that's
alive.
better than soul crushing, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, my week wasn't too bad either. I had Mr. Lee Noble stay with me last weekend, which is always adventure with my kids and everything
Yeah.
like that. It's hard to balance everything, but it's always fun. It's always a riot. So, and then the work week is pretty much just a work week.
True.
So you're past it, but I've been trying to share some like dad life stories. And last week, I think I mentioned to you, I talked about my pens, and I don't remember what the other one was. But
Yeah.
this week it was a little bit different. It was a little bit more exciting. So my wife has been getting into spray tanning, and so like right behind us, typically there's like a giant spray tan inflatable booth that she can take around and be portable and everything like that. So it's been sitting there for a while. She's been learning everything. So last night was the first time that she actually had somebody come over. She sprayed them. She in turn had them spray hers. So she had a nice tan last night. And you know, we had the co-sleeping thing for a long time with the 5-year-old, and we're trying to break her of the habit, but sometimes she'll still sneak in. So
Yeah.
the 5-year-old snuck in last night, and you know, woke up this morning and trying to get her up, it's like trying to get a bear up. It's ridiculous. So finally got her awake, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it looks like you have a birthmark on the side of your face. And I realized it's because my wife like had her arm laying on Kenna's face, and so she has this giant from like almost up here all the way down here. Just looks like a birthmark. Just complete transfer of the tanning solution. And so my 8-year-old comes in, she goes, oh great, and it's picture day today too. And I was like, oh god. So the first 15 minutes of my child's morning, I had to use like a makeup remover wiping her face
Clean
off.
her face off. That's awesome.
But that was interesting. So
Yeah.
you know, I don't really know how to transition. We typically do like 30 seconds of politics. And so this week you had the big Covington Catholic story. That's obviously a big deal in Kentucky because it is a Kentucky-based high school. And just did you even pay attention to it at all whatsoever?
I paid attention to it very, very little. Very little. You know, I got that first initial story, the first initial reaction from everybody, but after that I really didn't pay attention to what the news was saying, only what other people were saying as far as like how the story actually developed and changed. But honestly, I didn't really pay a whole lot of attention to it.
So you, David, you kind of hang out with the politics a little bit more. If you need to get that, just let me know. But you're more aware of the politics. Did you actually pay attention to the story, or did you?
Yeah, later on. I saw the video like Saturday night. But I didn't know it was a big story. I just saw someone post it on YouTube, and I just liked the initial story, and it kind of like, you know, I guess like everybody else, like the gut reaction, just seeing the first clip, it was pretty disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
it's sad, you know, that you kind of think of Native American people being dehumanized a lot throughout history, and
Right.
But then you learn there's more to the story, and then it kind of
Right.
changes. So that's
Yeah.
about
So-
it for me.
But it's hard to overcome that initial
Yeah,
reaction.
the
from
first
most
reaction,
people,
you're like,
especially people like me who really don't pay attention when you really see that's first story.
So I guess
Yeah.
I'll kind of take the lead on this and give you my 30 seconds. The first thing I thought of is like, why is this a story? Like, it looked like an unfortunate situation and all, but why is it a national headline type story? You know, you have young children who are 16 years old. I don't know about everybody else, but I was a dummy when I was 16.
Oh, absolutely.
And so you're kind of expecting them to do the right thing, so to speak. And you know, I don't know how anybody would expect a child that age to do the right thing. And also, you know, you kind of have an activist come up, and it's just a weird, you know, I don't really want to use the word altercation, but it's definitely like back and forth going on
Mhm.
there, and I just was really confused of why it was even a story. And of course, there's been lots of I guess additional things that have come out
Mhm.
on both sides
Yep.
about the entire story. That the younger kids were being heckled for a while. This gentleman approached them. He's kind of been dishonest about his background, and so what you're left with is kind of a crumbling narrative. But as you said, it's the initial story and the headline that everybody sees, and then it's really hard to recover after that.
Yep.
Don't you think it says something about our society in this day and age that this is such a big deal to where we just so knee-jerk, we're so instant gratification that, everybody made all these horrific posts and there's death threats and everything like that, and a lot of them even got removed once people found out the true
Yeah.
story that was going on there. But I just think it's very irresponsible of us to put that stuff out there that fast without properly vetting it, and it just seems to continually happen over and over again
Well,
with different stories.
I think that's what you get with news organizations anymore. They want to be able to say that they're the first ones that break the story, show you the story, and I think a lot of times they don't vet it, especially with like internet clips like this. I
Yeah.
mean, there's only going to be there'll be 4 or 5 different narratives because everybody's going to have their phone out. But if you get the wrong narrative, the wrong angle on it, it completely changes the story, like we've seen.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that, and I don't really know what the answer is because I do think that our society really calls for it, and there's just so many stories in publication, so many news stories that come out that run. The damage is done. Sometimes there's wrongly accused. The wrongly accused are never able to go back from it because they always have that kind of mark on them.
I don't know. I think that it's like they know what our attention span is, and honestly, they tap
Which
into
is like,
it.
what, 10 seconds?
At this point. At this point, absolutely.
10 seconds of that. I just wish
15 maybe.
that we need to figure out how to make one of these little segments go viral for 10 seconds and get our little 10 seconds of fame. I just think.
You gotta get up and show them something.
David, take your shirt off.
Take your shirt off.
But in all seriousness,
Yeah.
I think it really reflects the leadership that we have in this day and age, and essentially there appears to be none at any level, any organization, anything that you look at in our society. And I think that it's really a product of, number one, people not wanting to hear anything that's against their point of view, people not wanting to take any type of criticism whatsoever.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of I don't know. It's a very bad trend to have that I know the camera angle is bad, but apparently you can't turn it anymore on Facebook.
You can't turn it sideways.
But we appreciate it, and David's had no, you can't.
Now I'm leading back in.
So
Look, I'm on this one pretty
yeah,
close.
on that one. YouTube is a good angle right now.
Hair's a little messed up.
Lay my head in.
But yeah, I think it's just a product of really nobody wanting to hear it from anybody else, and also I think that people in positions of leadership are almost afraid to speak out and to say anything because everybody's so sensitive anymore.
This is true.
What's your thoughts on all of that?
There's a lot. I got a lot of thoughts on leadership. It's a pretty wide subject, but people are we're starved for leadership.
Absolutely, that's
in
a great way to put it.
In every aspect of our life. I mean, just it starts out with kids not having a dad at home. I mean, don't have leadership from the very beginning. And I think we're constantly looking out for that. I think that's why probably why Trump got elected, because we were starving for a leader to stand up and
at least he omits the presence of the leadership.
Stop the BS. But I mean, I won't get into whether or not I like Trump or not. But
I
mean,
we already have 30 seconds.
I'm just saying, right? I'm just saying that's why that stuff like that happens, because people are starved for leaders.
Byproduct of that.
Yeah. You're absolutely right.
I just don't really know what the next step is. Do you have any thoughts on all that, Dave? I know you've been. David's phone's been blowing up. He's a very busy man.
It's nonstop over here,
Yeah.
so it's kind of distracting. Sorry, but my thoughts on leadership is, it's really hard to be a leader too. On top of all that, we're starved for leaders, but it's really hard to be a leader on top of it. Some people are just really natural with it, but we're quick to. But I guess that's the whole job of being a leader, is to take the weight, take the criticism,
take the weight off. Yeah.
and it's a hard seat to be in.
You're leaning in and out of the Facebook.
Yeah, that's Facebook. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really know what the next answer is. It's something that I've been actually reading a lot on, and I find it interesting that there's a lot of military leaders that are now writing, business books, and they're kind of applying military leadership to corporate America, and I think it's really beneficial from that aspect. And like you said, we're just craving leaders, craving people to look forward to. Up to, and I just don't know what the answer is. That's the worst part, because, like I said, it seems to be we get more and more sensitive every generation, and to the point
we're naturally followers. So whenever there is somebody who steps up and lead, it's very easy to follow somebody who wants to take the initiative. And you've actually done studies like they did this experiment one time where they had a waiting room. Everybody was in on it. The receptionist, everybody in the waiting room except for one person. They introduced this one person, and the receptionist would ring a bell. All the actors and everybody would stand up, and that person that they just introduced and had no idea what was going on was looking around and being like, "What's going on?" So then they sat back down. They ring the bell again. Everybody stood up, and then that person was like, "I guess I should stand up too." And then they stood up, and this went on and on. This person had no idea why they were standing up, but one by one, they would start pulling out the actual actor back to the doctor's office or what have you. They would introduce a new person who had no idea what was going on. So pretty much you had an entire room at the end of this thing of people who had no clue what was going on, but every time that receptionist rang the bell, they all stood up and then sat down. And they would look to him like, "Why are we doing this?" He's like, "I don't know, because they're doing it." So we're naturally followers.
It's fascinating.
It's very fascinating.
So something that I've kind of noticed, it seems like in the old days, a lot more was leaned upon wisdom and experience, and now it seems to be like if you have any type of degree with that piece of paper, you're automatically almost put into a position of leadership.
Right.
David, as the only man in this particular room that has one of those pieces of paper,
That's right.
What is your thoughts on that? Do you think that I'm completely off base with that?
College is pretty hard. There's people that don't really see it that way, but you learn.
No,
a lot
I absolutely think that.
I mean, you learn a lot of different skills but it doesn't make you. I don't think I learned any leadership skills in college. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
About I meant to say about it. But you kind of learn to work through adversity and go the extra step and sacrifice a little bit more, which kind of are attributes of leadership. Which is, I guess, is why people tend to do that. They'll take people with degrees and put them in leadership positions. But I think at the same time you need a perfect balance of being wise and having
It's a tough
Right.
balance.
just not necessarily a college degree, but some kind of background of going sacrificing.
I think it shows, like, if somebody gets a college degree, it shows that they can follow through and, like you said, follow through and be something with some hardship, like, learning new skills.
Yeah, but at the same time, though, I agree. Though most of it has to be, there has to be wisdom, common sense, and stuff. And those are some things they don't teach you in college that you have to learn, through life and through working on a job.
Obviously, I believe that it goes twofold, because I believe that everybody that has a degree isn't meant for leadership. I understand everything that you're saying, but a lot of times when somebody comes out, they really don't almost know how to relate to people because they've been kind of in a classroom setting forever, and then you'll have people that are the same age that have been in the workforce for that long, and they're completely different because they know how to relate to people.
Yeah.
They've been out in the real world and had that experience,
Mm-hmm.
and so. But that being said, I don't feel like that person that's been out of the workforce, every single one of those people that has wisdom and experience is meant for leadership either. So I just really feel like that it should be looked at the individual and not always kind of relied upon by that sheet of paper that says, hey, I'm smart, which, is absolutely something that they earned. But once again, it kind of goes back and forth.
I don't think that the paper means you're smart either. That too.
Well,
there's a lot of us dummies out there that somehow got.
Stop
Somehow
that.
got
But I guess you pay enough money to school, they gotta give you something.
Well, and if you want to say dummy because of lack of common sense, then I would say that absolutely there's some of those people that go through there and they don't have that common sense.
Yeah.
But I feel like that a lot of that kind of is learned after they get out there and they understand. And unfortunately, a lot of people select degrees and when they come out, they don't have a job, and it's probably because that job's probably been filled by somebody that went straight in there in the workforce, or they don't want to leave, or whatever it may be.
Yeah, there's a lot of jobs that you need degrees for that don't pay enough to live and pay off your student
That's
loans.
to pay for the degree that it took to get
I just
there,
think that it should be something that we're wise and discerning enough to look at the individual level, not just put so much behind experience and wisdom, or not putting so much behind the degree alone. It has to be looked at for that individual person, what they can bring to the table, and ultimately if they can influence and lead other people, because that's a really an intangible skill that, you know, until you're there in that moment and you're actually leading those people and see how they respond, because there's lots of authoritarians or whatever you may,
right.
and just people don't respond to that.
Yeah, I think that I think sometimes we confuse managers with leaders too,
That's true.
because a lot of people in middle management are no different than the people who are actually doing the physical work on whatever's being done. They're being told by their manager. So to say that, you know, like I said, I think that a lot of confusion comes in with somebody who just manages people versus leading people.
Yeah.
And you can be a manager and a leader at
Absolutely.
the same time, but I think more times than not, people just fall on the manager side and do not lead.
And I think there's a lot of factors that go into that, whether it be they look down on them, or empathy, or
Empathy's a big thing.
whatever it
There's a lot
may
of
be,
people
where
lacking that.
they just can't understand.
Mhm.
And I've always tried to pride myself on being a person that can kind of look at each person's situation individually and try to put myself in their shoes.
Yeah.
Sometimes that could be a disadvantage as a leader, though, because you'll need to have situations where you can't be too emotional about things. And I think that I've kind of, you know, because I think that's kind of been a downfall of my leadership skills and stuff that I've had in the past too. It's like you kind of get too much into you know, that guy, whatever, and
Right.
then instead of getting to the bottom line where you're supposed to be, and you know, you kind of let those things.
I can definitely see that, but I think one of the advantages of, you know, I've been an employee in corporate America for almost 11 years, is that you get to a point, especially within your role and your position, where you can kind of cut through the BS and you recognize it immediately. And I think that's something that will come with you too, because, you know, I consider both you guys to have a really great heart, and sometimes, unfortunately, like you said, that can be a stepping stone or something a stumbling block.
Right.
And you know, you have to really kind of look into that, and you have to be able to recognize it. And I think that's something that a really good leader does as well. You know, you can have empathy for that person, but at the same time, you have to recognize if somebody's lying to you, being dishonest, and use the wisdom that you have to make that right decision.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I don't think necessarily being empathetic is also being emotional at all. It's just
Not all
it's just
times,
being
though.
able to put yourself in that person's position.
Sometimes it is, though.
Absolutely.
Sometimes you do have to have some type of emotional, and I think that a really great leader will step outside of their role and break ranks, so
Right.
to speak, to you know, to be there for somebody.
Well, I think that being empathetic puts you, you know, being empathetic, the very definition is being able to see through your eyes and knowing what you're feeling.
Yeah.
But so, and being a good leader, you can use your outside vision of the situation and the vision of the person going through the situation to help guide them to where they need to be. Because when you're in the eye of the storm, you only see one thing, you know, one way. You see the problem one way.
Yeah.
But if you're looking outside that situation, you get a much better perspective.
Yeah. So I just think it, like you said, it's a giant deal, and I hope that people recognize that, and that people understand that sometimes when they look to the right and the left and they don't find anybody to follow, or they don't find anybody that's really taking the reins, sometimes you have to be that person.
Absolutely.
And it's a hard life. Sometimes it's a hard decision. And
It is.
It's difficult to get up and kick yourself in the butt and get going every day,
Right.
but it's something that's almost necessary. And, you know, I feel like that some of the brightest leaders ever have come from a really low position, and that's they just stepped out and differenced themselves. And so I just hope that maybe that someday it will prevail. People will step up and we'll stop running into these situations like what I was talking about with the Covington Catholic situation, where there's leaders there. There's people that are
I think
lost.
that one was a lack of leadership by everybody.
I agree.
Absolutely.
From the situation to the story and how big it got. I mean, I think that
Yeah, they blew up when everybody could have just, simply walked away, but you did have an
but I think
antagonist there.
you can pretty much say that about anything that's going wrong in America right now. It's from a
true.
lack of leadership. You don't just look at this situation, but like the government shutdown. I mean, everything is just you have all these people that are unbending and unbreaking, and they all have
Which I think
self-interest.
they've ended that now, right?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
He made a speech on it today, I think. I'm pretty sure. But
Well,
Like
that's
that.
enough about that.
Yeah.
But everybody, you got to step up sometimes, and everybody needs somebody else, and we all need each other. And sometimes that requires doing
Yep.
making hard decisions and stepping up and going outside your comfort barriers or whatever it may be. But do that on an everyday basis. And if you don't know how to do that, read Jocko's book on it. Got a great discipline and leadership book. So
Is that a nice book? You read it?
yes, yeah,
Is it?
very good book. Yeah.
Check it out.
Yeah, and also David Goggins' book. We talked about that a couple weeks ago, but it's really about the mind, and I think that goes a lot into leadership too, because you have a lot of barriers that you have to overcome and break through that ceiling.
Yeah.
So, speaking of leadership, there's a lot of really good leadership from TV12 on Sunday, and but we won't break into that just yet.
Go for it.
But we'll transition to some sports. I know that you said that you're out on this next topic.
Oh,
but
yeah, the Fedor time.
tomorrow is Fedor versus Ron Bader. It's a Bellator event. It is the title fight for the heavyweight Grand Prix that they had. It was a big tournament with heavyweights.
Yeah.
It was very interesting because it's kind of going back to the old days, and now we kind of come down to the end of it. It kind of makes me sad that it's to the end of it. David, you've watched probably more MMA than you ever have before since we've been doing this. You watched some or most of the heavyweight fights, right?
Yeah, I think I've watched almost all of them.
So, and I'm kind of looking forward to it. I'm kind of dreading it at the same time because Fedor's my favorite fighter of all time. He's 41 years old. He's definitely at the downturn of his career. He's had a little bit of a resurgence with the 2 wins in the heavyweight tournament. I think they've been some pretty good matchups for him, and now he's fighting Ron Bader, who's a younger guy. He's a light heavyweight champion right now in Bellator as well. He'll have a little bit of a weight advantage tomorrow, but obviously youth and everything goes on the side of Bader. So I'm really nervous about it. I know you don't know a lot about it, but Bader's actually a really good wrestler. He's pretty heavy-handed as well. Fedor, he has the ability to knock out pretty much any human being alive, and so that's going to be to his advantage. As far as speed goes, I think that'll actually be pretty even, especially when it comes to hands. The speed advantage I'm worried about would be Bader's takedown ability to kind of get up underneath Fedor and get him down to the mat. And I think that the biggest obstacle for Fedor to overcome is actually going to be his cardio. I think he kind of got tired at the end of his last fight with Chill, and so that kind of makes me worry for the Bader fight because I'm afraid that it will be a situation where Bader kind of lays on him and wrestles him down and kind of wears him out to where in the end, I don't know that it would be a stoppage maybe per se, but definitely a good possibility for decision. So I feel like the key is going to be for Fedor to strike fast, strike often, and if Bader does try to wrestle with him, he uses a lot of good judo stuff. Maybe try to keep him off of him and maybe get on top and finish the fight early. So are you going to watch it?
He's 41?
40-41, yeah.
40-41? How old's Bader?
Jeez, probably early to mid-30s.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Like, how much do you have in the tank at 40-41?
I don't know, man.
I'm 42, and I don't have
he
that
took
much
a
in
little
the
bit of
tank.
time off, and when
Did
he
he?
came back, he actually looked like crap.
Yeah.
And he's looked better of late. I think he transitioned his training from Russia to Holland. And the videos and stuff that I saw of him this week, his hands and stuff looked good. He looked fast. He looked powerful. But there's a natural, I guess, kind of with every man, but there's natural puffiness. The older he gets, the more puffy he gets, and he's always been kind of puffy.
Right.
But you know, he weighed in at like
Not big country puffy, but
no, he weighed in at like 236, 237. I think Bader weighed in at 228. So, but he get kind of look puffy. I think that'll be advantageous for him in the beginning, especially if he's able to land a big shot or they get into some type of scramble that allows Fedor to get on top with that extra weight. But I think as the fight goes on, it's going to kind of wear on him and stuff like that. So
you think the longer the fight goes, that
The more-
the more chance that Bader has to win?
yeah, and
Gotcha.
both of Fedor's fights have ended pretty quickly early on, so he hasn't really had to expend a whole lot. He's been able to put a lot of output. I think they both ended in the first round. So
Is this a 5-round fight?
it should be a 5 round.
5 round?
Yeah. So are you gonna watch it?
Yeah, I would watch it. Yeah, yeah.
You missed some of it, so. But what I was asking was, you've watched most of them, right?
Most of them.
Have you watched the Fedor fights?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
We've watched. Let's see, how many have we watched here? See, I think.
He lost the one
first
at
one,
my
wasn't it?
old house, and that was whenever he came in and fought Mitch
Yeah.
Young. But as far as the tournament, he beat Frank Mir, and then he beat Chael Sonnen.
Yeah.
So
Chael Sonnen fight was the last one, wasn't it?
yeah, it was the last
So this
one.
is tournament style?
It's tournament style.
Oh, I like that. I like
but
that.
it's
So
not
how-
like
how
a
long-
single night, but it's like
was gonna say, how
it's
long
been going
between
on for
fights?
probably it's been close to a year. So
I like that.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
been over a year. Hasn't it been like a year and a half or something?
it's probably been a year and a half since
Yeah.
they announced it, but I think since the tournament kicked off, it's probably only been about a year.
Man, they should do that every year.
Well, they're doing a welterweight one now, so that's
Awesome.
170 pounds. So
Now, see, that's something that would get somebody like me watching.
yeah, you
I
should
dig that.
you should watch the finale tomorrow night. It should be good. I think it's probably gonna be Fedor's last
Yeah.
fight, one way or the other. So
Really?
yeah, I'm hoping he goes out on top. You know, I've had, I guess, the disadvantage of watching a lot of my heroes kind of
Fade
fade into
away.
obscurity. You know, like the Chuck Liddell fight.
Fingers crossed it happens in a
That's
week.
smart ass. But yeah, so I've had that, and I'm hoping that for Fedor that he's able to kind of ride off, because when he left the first time, he was kind of on a downfall as well. But he hadn't lost in like 10 years. When he started losing, he lost like 2 or 3 in a row, and it got really tough to watch.
Yeah.
And you know, he came back, and I had my hopes up, and I watched him fight, and it just didn't look like the same guy. But
Yeah.
here lately, he's looked more like the same guy, and I'm hoping that it's been a difference in his training, and I'm hoping that he can. I like Ryan Bader, and that's the bad thing about it. And he was my dark horse in the tournament. We kind of did some breakdowns on it, and I really thought that he had a really good chance of coming out that side of the bracket. But it made me nervous, because I feel like that he has the skills to beat Fedor, but I'm just hoping that Fedor's got one last right hand in him, and he can
Yeah.
ride out in the sunset on top. So.
I like to see the new generation taking over. Like
Me too.
The goats.
Just
The-
after
the goats. that
after
needs
the
to
old
retire.
one, after
Right.
the old one goes away. So,
Yeah.
so I know what you're getting at. I understand that you're talking about Tom Brady too. So since you're the guest,
No.
I'm actually gonna make you go last.
Oh, okay, great.
Because you're behind right now, and so you need to know what our answers are so you can pick against it. And
Oh. Well, I mean, regardless of what you guys pick, I mean, I think there's only one outcome.
Okay.
But yeah,
all right, cool.
go for it.
So Dave, are you okay right now?
I've got to make another call in a second.
Okay. Well, do you want to do your breakdown now, or do you want to do it?
Sure,
in a
yeah, I
second?
do
Okay.
now.
All right, so I just want to kind of hear briefly your breakdown of the conference championship games, and then kind of the way that you envision the Super Bowl.
Well, I mean, I got it right last week. I made the prediction. You know,
Kudos to that.
You
Yeah,
know what
yeah.
I mean, I'm
Yeah,
like
you're the
Tony
only one
Romo.
You're the only one that had the Rams, and so that
not,
taught
not
us.
quite,
Yeah.
not quite Romo, but
I'm like, yeah, know what's going to happen next. Yeah, both those games kind of. I don't know if you all thought this, but they both kind of like sucked towards the end, except for the end.
Can't
But,
see my face because the comments. I don't know how to hide them.
Well, anyways,
swipe left, swipe right.
the end of the game, the Saints game, that was like they want to blame. You know, I really like Sean Payton, but like
Yeah.
at the end, like he didn't lose very graceful with that. It was
Well,
his
I
game.
mean, it's
he
pretty
lost.
it's pretty blatant.
Yeah, but if he would have just had Drew Brees run the ball on first down
Yeah.
instead of throw that pass. I mean, I know he makes that pass a lot, but still, that's
Yeah.
why you just run the ball. You know, run the clock off. They only how much time did they take off in that drive? Like 10 seconds.
Not very much.
Yeah, one timeout in 10 seconds, I think.
Yeah.
So, and the Rams had 2 timeouts.
Yeah.
So they burned another one. Rams could have got the ball back with like 30 seconds left, and Saints could have won. But I mean, instead, Sean Payton, was out coached, and then, not a gracious loser, like I said. And that's kind of a bad look, I think.
Well, I mean, I can relate with not a gracious loser. I can totally relate with that because you pour your heart and soul into something, every year. I mean, a lot of people's jobs dependent on that, and then and for it to be blown and I know referees make mistakes and whatnot, but that was pretty bad.
The biggest takeaway of that game is that Greg Zuerlein kick. It's like 60-yard kick to win the game. That was insane.
Yeah.
And no one talked about it just because of the blown call.
Because of the whole blown call,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. See, and it diminishes what what the teams have done up until that point.
Yeah, the Rams, they played really good. I was going for the Saints, though, as you all know. Like the Saints way more than I like the Rams. Wanted Drew Brees to get another ring, but just
Me too.
the matchup just didn't seem.
Yeah.
And I don't know, the Saints weren't playing as good, I don't think, as they had been this season. And then I go to the other game, Patriots and Chiefs game. That one was a little bit more exciting to me. Patriots did a pretty good job. Kind of did what they wanted to do and try to keep Patrick Mahomes off the field as much as possible, run the ball. I know during it you were saying you're getting nervous between it and talking about Tom Brady needs will have to retire if he loses and.
It may be
got
emotional.
nervous.
It may be emotional.
It's okay.
So how do you see the Super Bowl playing out though?
That's a little harder because you never know. Tom Brady threw 500 yards last Super Bowl, like I said, like 500 plus, and still lost. But I don't know. I feel like the Rams are still a young team, but their defense is really good. I guess it's all got to come down to the Patriots' offensive line. If they can hold up, give Tom Brady time to throw.
I didn't hear a pick in there, did you?
Not yet.
I'm gonna say Patriots.
He's gonna say Patriots,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I thought that's where he was going.
Yeah.
So, very interesting weekend. I was exhausted at the end of the day. It seemed like I watched football just like nonstop.
Yep.
So sorry, Dave's got to step out again there. But scoot in closer.
Yep.
Exhausting day of football. The first game I thought was kind of boring, kind of like Dave hinted at. As far as the way that it all went down and being a sore loser or not, I really don't know what to say about the end of the game. I've always kind of had the mindset that you can't really blame the refs. It seems to be like the easy way out in a lot of scenarios. And I feel like the Saints had a lot of opportunities early on to really set the pace of the game, to step away with a big lead, and they unfortunately ended up kicking a lot of field goals and then didn't put a lot of points on the board on the back end. That being said, in the emotional moment of the game, they still had the chance to win it. I actually texted David and I said, I feel like Breeze is going to throw a pick here. I don't know. I just had a gut feeling. And, that's ultimately what happened, cost them the game. As times went on, I can see, I feel bad for the Saints. I wanted to see, as I said, I had the Saints and Patriots. I wanted to see an all-legends Super Bowl. I really wanted to see those two guys go at it. I feel like the ratings would have been phenomenal. So I was disappointed at the outcome. And, the more that I look at it and the more that I watch it and the more that I hear people that I respect like Benjamin Watson come out and talk about it, I really feel like the refs did get it wrong. There's a lot of things that the Saints could have done to win the game and not even have that be a conversation. They didn't do that. He threw the pick at the end of the game. They ultimately lost. It almost felt like it was kind of written in the cards, like it was almost fated to have the Saints lose that game. That's kind of my last impression of it was, the way the season played out, how they beat the Rams early in the season, and have it in your home field advantage.
Yep.
You come up with field goals when you should have touchdowns, and then ultimately lose it at the last minute. It just felt like it was almost like fated for them to lose, and that's sad and unfortunate because like I said, I would have loved to have seen an all-legend Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean you're right. They did have the opportunity to score points or score touchdowns, but they settled for field goals. But you have to give it up to the Rams defense for stopping that offense.
You're right.
So when you say that they've got to play above and beyond the refs, I think that's.
I'm not necessarily saying that.
Like you got to put yourself out in front in case they make a mistake.
Right.
But two teams that are pitted. I mean, they were pitted. They were matched up very well against each other. Exactly. And for it to end on an outside, I would say an outside entity other than the players,
Right.
you know, whether or not they made a mistake or made a great play, that you could leave it on the field. But whenever you have a ref, just, you know, 3 or 4 refs blow calls like that, blow major calls.
Did
like
you
that.
see the angle? It was from behind, the one that they
Yes.
kept showing where the referee actually had the other. I don't know what the official
Yeah, yeah.
titles
Well, you
are,
get the
but
lineman, you get the referee, and
well,
umpire.
the one guy came up the sidelines and he like waved him off very angrily and told him to go away.
Yeah,
Like,
I didn't see. Yeah, I didn't see
and
that.
I thought that I saw that video and I was like, ugh, that's not a good
Yeah.
look, because
Yeah.
you're saying that I absolutely got this call right. There's nothing that that you can say to change my mind or do about it, whatever it may be.
Yeah,
And you're not being open enough to accept the fact that you might have got that wrong, especially with the game on the line.
right.
And ultimately, you know, it did cost the Saints the game. So you have the Rams in the Super Bowl. You know, I'm happy
Yeah.
for them.
I am too.
I
Young
like the
team,
Rams. They
Sean
got a lot of
McVay.
cool players.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I was really hoping to see the Saints.
Me too.
On the other side, I thought it was kind of the same deal. I thought the Patriots really had the opportunity to really snuff them out very early on, take a giant lead,
Mhm.
and they really didn't do so. And I feel like that cost them kind of coming down. It was such a dominant first half. You know, you knew that at some point in time the Chiefs' offense was going to get going, and I mean it really did. You know, they set
Yeah.
a record number of points in the fourth quarter. But I've said several times that I didn't think that this team was as good as last year. I think I could be wrong. I think that this team on the defensive end might be a little bit better, but offensively, they just haven't had the same gusto that they did last year. You know, Gronk hasn't been as big of a factor. They have had Michelle, which has been a big difference.
Yes.
But so I was very nervous going down the stretch. Like David said, I was texting him back and forth. I was texting you back and forth
Yeah.
as well. It was just, it was very nerve-wracking. I had a house full of women, so I was like the only
That
one into the
weren't-
game.
That wasn't even paying attention to the game.
Oh
Yeah.
no, not at all.
Yeah.
They were back there talking. I'm like, I can't yell, I can't cuss. It just doesn't even feel like a
Yeah.
natural environment. But I made it work. You know, stuck to the game. It got to the point where they went ahead, and I was like, well, they got this game in the bag. And of course, they couldn't stop Mahomes. Come down, they kicked the field goal, tie the
Yeah.
game.
Yep.
To me, that was one of the most impressive drives that I've seen all year from anybody. There's a lot of crazy angles there, a lot of movement stuff going on to really break that Patriots defense down, and to also give them momentum going into the overtime period.
Mhm.
So I was probably the most impressed that I've been with Mahomes all year. You
Yeah.
know, he really did some difficult stuff there. He has so many offensive weapons there. You know, far beyond what the Patriots or really anybody else
Yeah.
have. Even with Hunt gone, Damian Williams has been so good that
Right.
you really haven't seen much of a miss from that. But, you know, kicked the field goal, tied it up. I sent you and Dave the same text. Whoever gets the
Mhm.
ball first
Oh, without
is
a
going to
doubt.
win the overtime. And especially when you have Brady get the ball, he's undefeated. You kind of feel like it. And so, honestly, if the Chiefs had got the ball, I probably would turn it off, even if there had been
They-
some
they
miraculous
would've went down and
interception.
sco- They would have went down and scored.
I agree with you.
They
And
would've went down and
so,
scored.
so they get the ball. I still was kind of nervous because you had a couple of big third down plays and he
Yep.
makes them, and then
Mhm.
Burkhead breaks off that big run, and I was like, well, this game's over with. You know,
Yep.
they're gonna get in no matter what at this point.
Yep.
So ultimately, the Patriots win. I did my little celebration, yelled about the Super Bowl. No, none of the women cared.
Nobody cared.
Not
Nobody
even a
paid
little bit.
attention.
So I was super happy about that. But
Yeah.
now, you know, the next thought I'm going through my mind is like, oh man, I remember last year, and it's kind of.
Yeah.
But it was really cool seeing all the Patriots celebration. I think I sent you a link to what Brady was saying to Edelman.
Yeah, I probably did.
I'm
read
too
it.
old. He said, I'm too old, you're too slow,
Yeah.
all this stuff. And
Yeah.
I feel like that's really kind of what's powered them, because I do feel like that they have a lot of offensive shortcomings. They don't really have what they need receivers-wise, and a lot of them, especially like
Yeah.
Gronk, hasn't
Yeah.
played to the level that he should.
I watched that game again today, and I was really, I didn't really pay attention during the game, but I watched the condensed version today, and I was really impressed with their running game, just how they were, even the small screens, the constant running up the middle, and I mean, they just ran
I really
up
feel like
the
that's been
middle
the
on
difference
Chiefs
this year,
defense.
and
Absolutely.
David has called it all year long. He's talked about how good Sony Michel's been,
Yep.
and how it's been really the difference. What's up, Wayne? Congratulations on the new baby, buddy. Anyways, I'm really impressed with that all year long. And Tom Brady didn't miss a beat, dude. Like, those throws that he was making are unbelievable. Like, I don't even know how it's possible he was playing out of his mind. So
I don't know if he was playing out of his mind. I mean, he had a 300-yard passing
he's
game.
playing out everybody else's
He also
mind.
had 2 picks.
Yeah, but
They
both
stopped.
picks.
See, he had 2 picks, and the Chiefs stopped him on 4th down twice in the
Yeah,
4th quarter.
those
and
are
they
bad
still
calls,
won.
too.
And they still won.
Yeah, those are
I
bad.
don't know if they were bad.
They should have just run the sneak, man.
Oh,
Those bad
gotcha.
calls.
Okay. Bad offensive
Yeah,
calls.
yeah,
I
bad
got
offensive
you. I got
calls.
you.
And both the interceptions actually were off of Patriots receivers. It wasn't like he threw a terrible
The first
ball.
one in the end zone wasn't. Like
You're right. You're right. I'm
yeah,
sorry. I
that's
was
a
thinking
red
of.
zone interception
I was thinking
as well.
of the Breeze. Was it the Breeze or
The
the Goff?
Bree- it
No, it
was-
was Goff. It was Goff interceptions.
Golf off
yeah.
of Gurley
Gurley,
interception.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was thinking
but
about
there
that.
was one off of Edelman.
Yeah, the other one was
yes.
because of somebody else. The first one was
Yeah.
just a horrible decision-making skills.
Yeah.
I always know who Wayne is, buddy. So coming down to my picks,
Yeah.
I'm scared out of my mind about it because I remember last year, the Rams have a lot of offensive weapons,
Yep.
have a really tough defense, much better defense than Kansas City, but their offense I don't think is as good as Kansas City because they don't have as many pieces, and I don't know that while Goff makes really good decisions. I don't know that he's as good out of the pocket or under pressure that Mahomes is. So,
Mm-mm.
you know,
I don't think he has the arm that Mahomes has, or the scrambling ability.
yeah, I feel like the throwing on the run is really what separates them. I would think that obviously Mahomes probably has that advantage in the arm, but I don't think it's as big as the ability to be able to throw on the run
Yeah.
like he does.
Yeah.
And Mahomes just has so many weapons around him. Like anywhere you look, there's
Mhm.
a killer. And
Yeah.
I don't think that Goff has that. You know, he's got some very good pieces. I don't think that they have anybody out of the tight end position that's the equal to Kelsey.
Everett.
Yeah, Everett, and
yeah.
they've got a couple guys that I think he threw to. But I don't think that they have all of the skill players
Mhm.
around him
Yeah.
that they do. But their defense is scary. And,
Yeah.
But that being said, they've also given up a lot of points to end the year. So
Yeah.
I've been scared about it. I was scared about it all going to the Super Bowl last year. I just felt like for some reason I was going in a hostile environment with a bunch of Eagles fans, and I just really felt like that they were going to lose. But this year I don't feel that way. I feel like that they have this narrative of being the underdog, and they're using that, and they're letting that fuel them.
I think that's a narrative that they are creating, though. I think they're creating their own narrative.
Are they?
I think so.
Because
Absolutely.
did you see the Vegas odds?
I think they are creating that narrative just because to give them a chip on their shoulder.
Okay, but going into the championship Sunday, they had the worst Vegas odds, and they had the lowest percentage according to ESPN to win the
Really?
Super Bowl. Absolutely, by
Out
far.
of the 4 teams left?
By far,
Really?
Chiefs had the highest
Okay.
at like 34%. I think the Patriots are like 15% chance to win. So
Should've been on the
it's
Patriots.
not exactly a
Yeah.
self-created narrative, but they're definitely running with it at this
Yeah.
point, which I think they should be. And I just
Well,
think
whatever gives you that competitive edge to get you to step up, absolutely.
I think that they're just. I think that they're really determined right now. I think that they have that narrative driving them. I think that Brady is pissed off beyond his normal levels of being pissed off, and I just can't see them losing. I think that they'll have a really good game plan of how to handle everything. I don't think
Yeah.
that the Rams defense will ultimately be able to stop them. And I think that the Patriots defense will be what makes the difference. I think the Patriots defense and their ability to run the ball to kind of spread everything out and maybe slow Donald down a little bit, whether it be run the ball or throw screens,
Yeah.
something incorporating their running backs to take that
Mhm.
pressure off Brady and
Yep.
to be able to give him the time that he needs to throw. Because like I said, I was so impressed that all of his throws were so perfect. Save the one in the end zone. That was a terrible throw. I agree with you there.
That
So
was. Well, he just didn't see that middle linebacker
Right,
stay.
but-
Yeah.
that's not very
Yeah.
Brady-esque. And you know what
No.
they should have done? They should have ran the damn ball, been on 21-0.
Well, I think that from that play, that's when they learned that
Yeah,
they
they're like,
don't need
okay,
to
we're
throw
not
the
gonna do
ball.
this.
They're going to run.
Yeah.
And they made quite a few
And
first
they made
downs.
they did not make the fourth down plays like you said, and they should have run the quarterback sneak. It's been so effective for them, and I have no idea what they were doing there. But there was a fourth down play. It was a third down or fourth down play, and Brady was making the changes at the line, and I think they had a run up the middle. He changed it to a run to the right. That's the one that Tony Romo
That's
called.
one of the 12.
You
that
know,
he called,
obviously
right,
busted it open, but
Yeah.
they made the plays that they needed to on third down, and that was the
Mhm.
big thing. You know,
Yeah.
they couldn't be stopped on third down. You know, Gronk did what he had to do. He made a lot of good plays in that game,
Yeah.
which is very, exciting going in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And of course, Edelman was a rock like
Yeah.
always. So,
Yeah.
but that's my prediction. I think the Patriots will win. I think it could be a low-scoring game, but my brain kind of tells me that at the same time. But I haven't been very right on the scores. I did say that the Patriots win by 6 or more.
I did say it was going to be a high-scoring game, which I just come out on the wrong side.
I just thought that the weather would play more of a factor than what it did.
And it didn't.
It did not.
It did not. It did not make a hit.
And obviously, you're going to be in a dome. And hopefully.
Well, see, I think that one thing that we don't think about whenever we're trying to predict the Super Bowl is that it's going to be it's a lot longer game. Halftime's longer. There's more TV breaks. Guys are going to be a little bit more refreshed than just your normal average game. Sometimes it's hard to keep that fire in your belly for that long a time when you have so much downtime. I know one thing that I think that is going to come from these playoffs is there are going to be two rule changes next year. They're going to be able to make pass interference reviewable, and in overtime, I guarantee you they're going to start the discussions about having doing college.
That's a good point.
Having both offenses, control the ball, because Mahomes didn't get his hands on the ball, and I think that was a major issue, with that game. So
yeah, I think you're right about that.
That was like the Patriots' whole game plan too.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. So like you said, whoever got the coin toss was going to win that game.
Yeah, he was very defiant, saying we want the ball, which sometimes the Patriots defer in weird situations that you wouldn't expect it to, but obviously they weren't going to there.
Yeah, and like with Watson trying to call out, it was
Goodell.
Watson, right?
Yes, Benjamin
calling
Watson.
out Goodell.
And he's a very well-respected person.
Absolutely.
A very good leader himself.
Yeah. On his team and in the league. You're absolutely right.
And in the community.
They're letting a lot of plays go.
Has he won a Walter?
And they're letting them just play it out. There's a lot, and then the other game too. There was a lot of.
There's a lot of really bad. Yeah, we were talking about that. Like
whenever Barry was riding on Gronk's back.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
And the play right before that is the one that they called roughing the passer call, which was a bad call. But at the same time, you watch the replay and there's some guy like this on Edelman. And you're like, okay, well, there should have been a call there, just made the wrong one.
I get it. No, you're absolutely right.
That's my prediction. Patriots win. Me and Dave are both Patriots. We're one ahead of you now. So does that change your thought process? Or are you going to go with the Rams?
Well, I'm definitely going to go with the Rams because that's who I want to see win. Whether or not I think they'll win it's going to be a coin toss, to be honest with you. Like a couple when we first started predicting, I predicted that that offense wins championships, and that's what it's going to be this year. It's going to be the best offensive team.
There's times the Rams look like one of the best all-around football teams.
If you pay for the tickets, I'm in.
What's that?
He said the black market Chick-fil-A. Everybody's going to be mad that it's closed at the stadium on Sunday. So.
Oh yeah.
Hey, that's my birthday too, Brandon.
Isn't that the strangest thing that they have a
just
Chick-fil-A
throwing it out there,
in there?
give me some tickets.
And they play all the games
And they play all the games on Sunday. That's odd. That is odd.
I think it's more of almost like a shopping center for those places. It's just really become a shopping center where they're open all the time and not necessarily
makes sense.
with the
I
stadium.
didn't think about that.
Yeah, I didn't.
Sorry to interrupt. I apologize.
You're good.
We were just actually getting some interaction on Facebook and I want to respond to it.
No. I can't really add on as far as the analytics on what happened in those games other than, I think that they were both poorly officiated, and I think that's something that the league.
You were very upset about it that night, and I was like,
it's
Jerry, it's not that big of a deal. But then
I lost all interest in even trying to watch the Super Bowl because it's just like this. It's just so pitiful.
So you're not going to watch the Super Bowl?
I probably will.
You will. And you're still not going to come down here
I'll
for
tell
your
you what,
boy's
the only
birthday.
reason I would like to watch the Super Bowl is to listen to Tony Romo. I really like him as a commentator.
Is he for sure doing it?
Yeah, because it's going to be on
Awesome.
CBS. And I think that, he probably should have used these skills when he was a quarterback, but, I think he does an excellent job.
Well, he might have. We don't know how influential his skills were.
I really like Gruden, but since he's over dismantling, the Raiders.
Wasn't it Stephen A. Smith that said that Tony Romo should have a coaching job?
He probably should.
I never thought of that.
I sent him a message to my dad, and I was like, just offer everything the Cowboys have for Tony Romo to be the offensive coordinator and make him sit up in the booth.
I bet Jerry Jones.
Don't let him be down on the field.
He's getting his checkbook out.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's going to just come down to which team scores. Obviously, which team scores the most
Come
points.
on, we need
But
more out of
seriously,
that.
I think that honestly, I really think that it's going to come down to.
So your heart's with the Rams, but what does your head say?
Well, my head says that it's probably going to be the Patriots because
Death taxes, Pats win.
well, I think
Except
that
for
you know,
last
I
Super
think
Bowl.
I think that his deal with the
Or the
devil is
Giants.
probably coming to an end, and he's
Yeah.
got to give up his soul soon. But yeah, I mean, I think they just get so lucky on everything they do. They
I
get
don't
so
know about
they
luck.
get so lucky.
I think you hit the nail on the head in a roundabout way in that they have a system and a quarterback that makes everything work.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
When you
Yeah.
take those equations out, and I
Yeah.
think the Patriots are going to be in for a rude awakening when Brady leaves. I don't think that their way of kind of undervaluing certain pieces is really going to work. I think that Brady kind of makes everything click, and it was the perfect timing. You know, they got a guy that felt like he was shunned in the beginning. He gets his position and his chance whenever Bledsoe goes down, and the rest is truly history.
Right.
And it's the same narrative as Fedor. I thought he should have retired off the Falcons Super Bowl. It was the best game that I've ever seen in my entire life. I can't imagine anything ever overcoming that for me personally. It's kind of like watching Kobe score.
Oh, if he was like Peyton, and then you could tell like he was going down, but you can't. When I watch Tom Brady, I can't tell like that he's losing a step at all.
But do you want the players to get to that point? That's kind of where I'm at.
I think Phillip Rivers is there now. Watching him in the playoffs and watching him launch that ball is like it's almost like he was shot putting it.
That was just that last game though. He didn't have.
Yeah.
He was the pressure on him. Like his offensive line just pretty much just.
But yeah,
So,
I
yeah.
kind of like to see them like kind of go down in a slow blaze.
I know you would.
Just because that question is always out there. How much longer could they do it? Because that's like what you think about Barry. That's what I think about Barry Sanders. It's like because he left in the prime of his career because I can't exactly remember, probably over a contract or whatever. He wanted to be traded.
Supposedly confusion with his manager.
Probably so, but he had, you would think that he had a few years left in the tank, but he got out with his health.
Yeah, Megatron too.
But also, Brady probably is going to play a couple more years just because they protect the quarterbacks.
But
so
what if
much
he wins
now.
a Super Bowl? Do you really think that he'll
come
have
back.
6 Super Bowl rings?
He'll come
Next
back.
closest person will have 4. He's been in more Super Bowls than most franchises in the history.
Yep.
Him and Belichick have been in more championship games than like 170 something franchises.
I think I seen a stat at the beginning of the year that has said that the New England Patriots have a better chance of making it to the Super Bowl than the Browns do of winning a game.
Yeah.
So I mean,
it's like 75% chance or something.
Yeah, it's crazy.
No, I think it's AFC Championship game.
Maybe
it's AFC, not Super Bowl.
Maybe that's what the stat
So,
was. But still.
But my point is like, what else is there? I mean, if you win it this year, he's 40, 41 too.
He's 40. Yeah, I think he's 41.
I think he just turned 41.
Yep.
So you've won it again. Why continue to go out there, risk tarnishing everything, risk bad injury?
I don't think he would tarnish
Yeah, I was
it.
going to say he couldn't tarnish anything.
don't
Look
think-
at
Look,
Jordan.
guys,
Look at Jordan.
Yeah, he
Jordan.
played
I
for the
know,
Wizards.
but Jordan's untouchable. But
So is Tom Brady. He's on that level.
I don't
I
think Jordan's
think that
untouchable.
Kobe, he came back after all. He came back. He got injured really bad. He wanted to come back after that. He did that. He got injured again. He wanted to come back and did it again. And then I had to watch Kobe score 15, 16 points a night. And I don't want to see that.
But you know that QB injuries aren't really like as common as other positions too. At the same time.
Yeah, but when they do happen, they're usually major.
I mean,
It's like Alex Smith.
But they are protecting the quarterback.
Brady tore his knee up too. Don't forget that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they're protecting the quarterback now, and it's like
yeah,
you
I
said,
agree with that.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
so at
he's
41 years old and having these young early 20 kids come and trying to rip your head off because you're Tom Brady because of
Right.
everything else. I mean, it only
that's
takes
why
one.
they're going to invest in the line. They're going to invest in a back that knows how to block.
Well, Brady's my favorite football player. He's by far and away the greatest of all time. If somebody says Peyton Manning, just remove me off of everything because it's just absurd. He's the greatest football player to ever live. He's the greatest quarterback to ever live.
He's more likable than Brady. That's why Manning is.
I don't know. I guess that's based on
He has personality. Brady don't have personality.
like
Just
either
because
of
he's
them.
in commercials, that doesn't give him a
He's got a
personality.
fake smile.
Tom Brady is literally
he's
the American
totally,
dream.
I'm surprised he's not a Scientologist.
Tom Brady
so
is not
fake.
relate. He's like the least relatable person in the
He
entire world.
is,
I don't-
right.
He is.
I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
see that. I see.
I
You
will
don't
never
see
be
it.
like. I could never imagine myself as Tom Brady.
Well, now, but I'm talking about like when Tom
when I
Brady
was 12 years old.
coming out of college, and nobody gave him a chance, and all of his physical attributes, like you look at a guy like Mahomes, and they're just slobbering over him, and he's the greatest thing ever. He has all these physical attributes, and so they're crowning him ahead. LeBron crowning him ahead of time before he's even done
I
anything.
think, yeah, but that's the media shoving,
Right, but
shoving
that's the narrative
down
that we
your throat.
get,
Yes,
and that's the
you're right.
narrative that you get regurgitated from other people.
Right.
So that being said, you look at Brady, he didn't have any of these physical attributes. He didn't really have any type of advantages coming into the league because everybody had kind of wrote him off. So that's the Brady I look at, and I think that's the Brady that he looks at whenever he looks at himself in the mirror. He doesn't necessarily see himself as 5-ring Tom with a supermodel wife
He
and
probably
an Audi
sees his
sponsorship and other
imperfections like we all do.
I mean,
And
I'm
he
sure.
and he wants to strive.
I'm
So
sure.
I think he does come back, and I think he tries to make it, how many ever he can before he.
I'm just
before
saying-
He's not gonna leave him high and dry because he was part of the reason they got rid of Jimmy
High,
Garoppolo too.
high and dry. 3 Super Bowls in a
I
row.
know, but he's going to try to protect them anyway.
Well,
'cause
as far as the
he's the one that
franchise goes.
yeah, because he's the one. He's good friends with Robert Kraft.
Yeah.
He convinced Robert Kraft to get Belichick to get rid of Garoppolo.
Yeah. I seen a mock draft that said that was it Kyler Murray? That's the quarterback that's coming out of Oklahoma. Is that right?
Yeah.
I seen a mock draft him going to the Patriots. In the
He's
first
too
round.
small to.
Hey Brandon,
to-
come over sometime and
Yeah.
I'll show you all the jerseys of the people that are not the best that I was a fan favorite of, like Adam Morrison. So he said I was only the fan of the best people.
Oh,
So,
is that right?
Yeah.
Adam
and-
Morrison was the best college player though, so
Wow.
maybe he's right.
maybe, but I didn't like Brady until he got hurt.
I didn't like Brady till he won his Super Bowl.
Well, I still don't like
No,
it.
I didn't like Brady till he got hurt, and I realized that the narrative that was being shoved down my face of Brady's a pretty boy, all this stuff was
That's
not
true
true.
though. He is a pretty.
I mean, he's
He is a pretty boy.
but he walked off the field. He wouldn't let anybody assist him. I was
Yeah.
done with my kind of run with the Cowboys, and that's kind of when I plugged into watching Brady and hoping that he got back to prominence. And
Yeah.
there was a long time where he did not, and eventually did.
Well, I think that if Brady was in any other system under another coach, he probably wouldn't be as great as he is. So I mean, you got to take that into
Oh,
consideration.
absolutely. But I mean, at the
Because-
same time,
because this
you have
is the-
Phil
this
Jackson
is-
and Michael.
This is the thought about Peyton Manning being a great, the greatest or the GOAT. Because he was a
Almost.
flipping
Oh, it's just
offensive coordinator on the
Well,
field.
Brady
He
is.
drug offensive coordinators. He behind him, he called his own plays.
I saw a thing about his stats, and it was on the Pro Bowl thing, and he had threw like 28 touchdowns. He was like the starting Pro Bowl quarterback, and I was like, Andrew Luck did that this year, and he was just comeback player of the year. So
Yeah.
like his stats aren't even that mind blowing. I don't know. I just never saw it with Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning's another guy that was kind of shoved down my throat, and I just never saw it.
Well, I don't necessarily think that. I don't
Well,
necessarily.
I think
that Peyton
him,
Manning
Brady, and Roethlisberger. Like I've seen all those guys every year. They get shoved down my throat, and you got all these people that only like, certain teams, like the Patriots or the Packers and Steelers, and I feel like that's what's shoved down my throat.
The Patriots,
So,
Packers.
Are you hoping
Yes.
that? Are you
Yeah.
hoping that Brady retires then?
Well, we talked about it the other day. I don't think he should retire. I think he's still got
I
a
agree.
couple Super Bowls. Look, I'm not a fan of the guy, but you gotta respect greatness.
I'm the only Brady fan here, and I'm the only one that thinks he should retire. And
I
Well,
don't
I
think
mean,
he should retire.
I
like
respect
said.
the greatness, though.
Yes,
I mean, just
absolutely.
like LeBron, and I'm not a huge fan of LeBron, but I still respect that. He's one of the best. Even go back further, even Kevin Durant. Like I don't like Kevin Durant, but I mean I respect. I like to watch him play still.
Yep.
But that being said, I kind of hope Brady. He should still play, but I think that he should retire so the Browns can make the playoffs next year.
That's what he said. He said maybe the Browns. I don't know. I guess I just come at it from a position of watching so many people. And you guys talk about Michael. You read the headlines when Michael went and played basketball, or he came back to the Wizards, and they were just trashing him. And there were really good moments of him that I enjoyed. He had a couple good games with the
Yep.
Wizards. The All-Star game was awesome when he, was hitting
Yeah.
everything, hit the game winner. So moments like that were awesome. But then you look at Kobe, and he had so many injuries coming down the stretch. I went to my only NBA game ever. It was for my birthday. I show up, and he gets hurt, and he can't play. And so, that's kind of what I remember about the last couple seasons, and the fact that they gave away too much for Steve Nash after they rejected the Chris Paul deal after the league did. So that's kind of the position I'm coming at it from, and I just want him to be able to go out on top. I want Fedor to be able to go out on top. I just want to have a good couple weeks, and you guys are trying to run it for me.
Well, nobody name a person that goes out on top. Like they don't never.
Peyton Manning, I guess he won
never
Super
go
Bowl,
out on
but
top.
he was still like declining. But he can't win out in the Super Bowl.
That defense won that.
There's
Super
a
Bowl.
few people
You're
that have
right.
went out on top. I mean,
To say that Peyton Manning went out on top, I think that would be a stretch. He won a Super Bowl, but
But
defense
that's
won that
like the
Super Bowl.
pinnacle
But
of
yes,
being
you're right.
a player,
Yeah.
though. is
but
what-
I think that you know, there's a few people that have went on top, but as far as that top level of competitiveness, I think that that's what has prevented a lot of people from riding off in the sunset. I mean, what Elway did, didn't he?
Yeah, you're right. I guess I'd
Or
say
did he
Elway
lose
did,
that
right?
Super Bowl? I thought.
I thought he won that Super Bowl.
Maybe he won it. Yeah.
Yeah,
They
because
won it back to back, and then
that's the
retired,
one that
right?
Terrell Davis won the MVP.
I was like
right?
7 or 8, so.
But I mean, there are examples of it. But I think when you look at like Jordan, Kobe, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, those guys are just so ultra competitive that it's really hard for them to go, I just won, I'm going to step away now. And
Right.
I feel like that more of it should be done. You know, you've reached this top pinnacle, but I think that they feel like they're so invincible that they can't even
Well,
hardly.
yeah, because you're still at the top of your game.
You'd have to have a lot of ego.
Obviously, if you win the Super Bowl,
Yeah.
you still feel like you can do it. I can do this another year. Plus, you gotta love the pain and the preparation and everything that they go through on a weekly basis that we don't see.
My heart can't handle much more of it, guys.
Is that right?
Yeah.
If he wasn't a top tier quarterback, still, I would agree with you. But he.
I know.
somehow
I just
did.
don't want to. I don't want to see him not be a top tier quarterback. I don't want people to be able to say
I'm kind of looking forward
it's
to that.
time. It's time to go.
I'm looking
You
forward
stay here
to
till.
that.
What if it never happens?
Oh, it'll happen.
I saw
happen.
I saw a Barstool Sports thing that says Tom Brady at age 87 preparing for Super Bowl
Is that a
100
lady
and something.
working out?
Yeah. So funny. But yeah, I just hope it doesn't come to that point. I would like to be able to see one of the people that I look
Yeah.
up to say, okay, I'm comfortable enough with myself to say I'm 41 years old. This is the top of the sport. It's time for me to go.
Yeah.
He'll bring Patrick Mahomes up on stage with him and say, "Here's the torch, young man," and then you'll sit at home and shed a tear.
Yeah, I mean, like, he just ruined everything that he did. No, I mean, I have a lot more respect for Mahomes.
Was it
and-
him or Belichick that went? No, it was Tom Brady that
It was
went to
Brady.
meet with
Yeah,
Mahomes. Did you already talk about that?
No, we didn't
Oh,
talk
okay,
about it. I'll lift it out.
okay.
No, but he did supposedly pull him aside and have a talk with him.
And has he ever done that?
And once again, it's
Yeah,
unfortunate
that's a
that,
good question.
and maybe it's the reason that we've always looked at sports people as being such heroes, but you know, there's so many examples of leadership within sports that we can kind of translate to our lives, but
Absolutely.
it doesn't necessarily happen anywhere else, and that's a great moment of leadership. So somebody, you know, taking advantage of a situation that's probably the worst in that kid's life and pull him aside, being the greatest of all time, and say, hey, look,
Yeah.
it's not as bad as it
Yeah,
seems.
so I've been playing since Mahomes was probably like a small
Yeah.
child. If I was 12 when Tom Brady won
Mahomes
Super
was
Bowl,
still
then
in-
Mahomes was probably like in kindergarten.
Well, think about it. Mahomes is what, like 23?
Yeah,
And so
22, 23.
yeah,
something
so
like that,
Brady
yeah.
was, just starting his football career in the NFL, right? How long has he been in the NFL?
18 years. Is
There
that
you
it?
go,
18
yeah.
seasons.
Yeah, so
Or,
was he was a
no,
small child.
2002. What is it this year? 17
Yeah.
seasons. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, right.
Yeah, so he's
I don't like these.
4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, Fedor is the greatest of all time. I'm rocking the
Fedor.
Fedor t-shirt, and I'm hoping for the best, but I'm nervous about it, just like I am in the Super Bowl. I feel a lot better about Brady's chances than I do Fedor's chances, but I'm hoping for a good 2-week
Yeah.
stretch, and maybe I'll just retire from sports. I just don't watch them anymore. And that's one of the reasons I've had such a hard time watching the Patriots this year and last year is because
Yeah.
it was such a high, and then like, you know, this is the first time they didn't win 13 games in forever. I mean,
So I don't really like any of this stuff. I like a Browns fan, Kentucky football fan. I don't.
You have the Kentucky
See,
Wildcats
well, you got-
basketball,
yeah,
so
so you got to bounce
Yeah,
back with the
basketball,
Browns.
yeah, but I'm talking about football.
football, yeah.
Well, you get to
That's-
bounce back with the Browns.
Well,
and-
these
and
2
the
years for
Wildcats this
Kentucky
year.
football and the Browns, they both
Yep.
successful. So
Yeah, maybe
especially Kentucky
maybe it's on the
football.
turn for you.
Yeah, maybe.
And the Browns kept the Pittsburgh Steelers out of the playoffs. That is a victory.
Yeah,
That's a winning season in
Sure.
my
He's
opinion.
got you there.
Yeah.
So, What's next for Jerry Tyrell? Are we going to get our Fantasy Kings, our Dynasty Kings podcast next?
I'd like to. Honestly, I really would. You got the link to our Dynasty Facebook page. Invite him, and we're
Okay.
going to start inviting. I posted our league rules. And
I did
whatnot.
invite him.
Okay.
I added him. I think.
Take a look at that document I put in there and see
Seems
what you
like
think
work.
of it. It is a lot of work, but you know what? That's why I'm
I
already.
better do it when
That's
it's
why I'm
closer
already
to the
looking
year.
forward to. No, I'm already looking forward to next year. I'm looking at mock drafts. and-
Well, I mean, I'm
and
excited about it for
rookies,
sure. But
incoming rookies.
I'm excited about it for sure. But I don't know if I want to read the rule book just yet. I might
It's
wait
not,
a little
yeah,
bit
I
longer
got you. Yeah,
because I want to freshen up on a little bit. So
yeah.
yeah, I hope that you're able to do that. And if it requires some type of commitment, we've proven now at this point that there's ability to use the phone to do that. And,
Yeah.
I'm sure that we could translate that to audio only podcast.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
just make it specialized. So I think that'll be fun. I think you probably need my expertise.
I think that we bounce good off each other.
Yeah, you're probably
I
right.
call you on your crap.
You can
yeah.
say it. You can
I
say
call
it.
you out on your shit. You call me out on mine. It's all good.
Yeah. I just wish I would have had that head-to-head victory over you this year. I didn't get that.
No.
Just got the ring.
No,
So
just got the
sad.
ring. That's all right. Hey, I got my dynasty ring. That's all that matters.
Oh yeah, you got the official
did.
one,
Official one.
and
that's
then
right.
you ruined my 16-0 season for nothing,
I know it,
just
right?
to lose.
That was
Just
my
lose.
championship.
Yeah,
It was 14-0, but hey,
Well,
who's
you know
counting?
what I meant.
Who's counting?
I was
But
just
yeah,
trying
I'm-
to extend it to Dolphins level.
Yeah, I think I'm already looking past the Super Bowl, looking forward to next year.
So that
honestly.
means
I
you're
really
for
am.
sure not going to come and hang out with us at the Super Bowl for not at the Super Bowl, at this house for the Super Bowl.
Maybe it's still a strong possibility.
I can't even look at you right now. So, what about you, Dave? Do you have any final thoughts, parting thoughts?
No, I'd say I'm not really it's just every year I'm not really looking forward to the Super Bowl. Last year especially, it's I don't want to see the Eagles and Patriots play. That's some bull crap. But it ended up being a really good game. So
It
I mean,
was.
maybe this
Wasn't
will
a
be
good
too.
game for me.
Yeah, if the Rams can pull it
The
off.
Basil Hayes.
I say you got to learn just to enjoy,
can't,
just
man.
to enjoy it.
I tell people this all the time. This is the absolute honest truth, and I don't think I saw anybody from the other team, but I was playing a guy we know, Brian Thierry's basketball team, and just like I was a senior in high school, it was just for the YMCA league, and I still remember a shot that I missed, and it still haunts me. So if you expect me not to be competitive and get way too involved in it, it's just impossible. And
But
David,
you don't have any control over
Yeah,
it.
I
you're
know.
just a bystander.
I was actually pretty good last year. I didn't have great expectations. I had a lot of Basil Haydens, and I was with a bunch of Eagles fans, so I just kind of sat over there. But David saw me when I was absolutely insane on the Atlanta Falcons night.
Yeah, I tried to go home.
And I was like,
He
no.
told me.
Yeah, I
He
told
told me
him.
before we
Well,
started.
not
I had to
recording.
work at 5
Yeah.
in the morning the next day.
But
was
and I
like,
appreciate
"Oh,
your
good."
sacrifice for another Patriots Super Bowl. So,
He's
We-
not even a Patriots fan.
but he's good luck.
He's
I was
just-
rubbing his head,
Yeah.
kissing him. It got weird.
Oh, no.
But
So
we appreciate you guys tuning in.
Yeah.
Any comments or suggestions? I know that we're gonna have to work on the Facebook thing. I got a couple comments that you couldn't see our faces, which I'm not sure if that's actually real or not. But
You could hear it though.
yeah, you could hear it.
Yeah.
But we'll work on the Facebook. I don't know why that they changed it to where you can't do live with a turn screen anymore. So I'll try to work on that. The YouTube actually one looks good, but we didn't get any comments on there. So, but we'll continue to try to work on and do different stuff like this. May even try an Instagram live at one point in time because I'm interested to see how that works out and continue to have Jerry on.
Yeah, absolutely. We need to get our football
Yeah,
up off the ground.
maybe
Yep.
a football thing, maybe do
Yep.
something for it, the draft. We weren't able to do the draft last year, and I did a lot of work for it, and we never actually made that happen. So had some personal stuff going on. But
Yeah.
David, no parting thoughts for you?
No. I mean,
David will continue to be
Well-
here.
We'll start. I think I kind of mentioned a little bit last week about Marty Burnham leaving, and then the Reds this week got Sonny Gray.
Yeah, so we'll have to have a
So,
baseball
yeah.
podcast for Dave because it's his true passion and love.
Yeah, I'm a kitchen. The Reds may break 500 this year.
Yeah, he's been texting me about all the trades and like I'm asleep at like 9 o'clock. 'Cause that's what I do. I'm like, David, come on. And,
I'm like,
but
what
Yeah.
if they got Dallas Keuchel?
we appreciate David kind of soldiering through some of the work problems he has too. And we apologize that he was in and out, but he's very important to our podcast. And
That's what happens when you're an important man.
Yeah. when you're a baller.
Businessman.
But we appreciate everybody for watching. Like I said, give us some comments about what you thought of this whole platform and if it worked, if it didn't work, if you have suggestions that would make it better. Appreciate the comments. Haven't talked to Wayne in forever, so appreciate that. Thanks for the good comment there at the bottom too. Call me sometime, man. It's been like 26 years. Where you been? So, but we appreciate everybody tuning in. You can find this on my Facebook feed, on YouTube after this. It's the videos will obviously still transfer. The next time you see us, we'll probably do just a standard format, try to come down off the Super Bowl victory. Maybe do some live videos that night. We always say we're going to do live videos, and I get into the fights or the Super Bowl or whatever, and I never do them. So
Right.
I'll try to be better with that. I apologize. But find us, Jerry Tyrell, on Facebook. Do you have Instagram?
Yeah, but I mean, I'm not active.
Okay.
I'm not
But
really
what
active
about your
on the social
Dynasty
media.
Kings? Do you have?
I haven't done anything.
Okay,
with
well,
it
you
yet.
need to get on that.
I know it.
David, what's your screen name of the week, handle of the week?
I don't know.
Okay.
It's all private.
David Morrison.
I keep it on the.
Yeah,
on the
so
down
don't
low.
be sending no bots his way, but
Yeah.
he might accept you otherwise.
Don't slide into my DMs.
But Double Access Podcast on Facebook, Double Access Podcast on Instagram, Double Access Podcast on YouTube. All of the likes and subscriptions are very, very important to what we're trying to do here. Like I said, I think I'm trying to have a standard format next time with possibly a guest, and the phone seems to be working well. Jerry's been on the phone the last couple of times, and it's worked out really well. So we'll continue to try to do that. But like, subscribe, comment, good or bad. We appreciate it.